County Public Works, I'm sorry, one committee.
You want to call the roll?
Yes. Clerk, call the roll.
Randall J. LeBlanc,
Present?
Kathy Ann Harris, absent. Diane D. LeBlanc,
Present.
Christine A. Mackin, absent. Joseph Pilicata.
Present.
Present. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum because you have 3 members, but you have 2 absent.
Wonderful. Accept the motion to approve the minutes as read.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes, all those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it, all opposed. And on the docket, we have new matters. We have recommendation regarding the Bentley University communication regarding the Beaver Street Rotary sign design. And Councilor LeBlanc, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, on this matter, I was having a conversation with Mr. Garvin, who is the city's traffic engineer. And our conversation was not about this, it was about something else, but he mentioned that he saw that this had come into the city council. And questioned whether this was our authority or whether signage in the area of rotaries, if that authority lies with somebody else, more specifically the traffic engineer / traffic commission. Do you know that?
I don't know that. That is city land, correct?
Well, in.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
so the original request, we've been dealing with Bentley, we forwarded it to the mayor because they wanted to know what signs or what they would put. Previously, there had always been a Davidson Circle sign on the road. I don't know who approved it. As far as I know, it was always there. They always maintained it, so the city has never really maintained that island, even though it is city land. So they wanted to, because Bentley University will be taking care of the island, they want to put I don't know if it's one sign or it looked like maybe one at each leg of what goes into it. So, yeah, 3, and there was 3 options of which sign we would like. I don't know who. So we sent it to the mayor to say, would you want to pick one, and she forwarded it to city council. So the mayor is saying you guys get to decide.
Well, and there's sort of signage from an aesthetic point of view, right? And then there's signage from just a safety point of view and making sure that nothing's blocked. And quite honestly, it was a very quick conversation. My focus that day was another matter with him, but he did raise the question with regard to who has the authority to approve signage at a rotary, and he seemed to be suggesting that it might not be us. So I would, maybe we throw that out there. I'm done.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe a few months back, we approved the design for this circle. Something came before us, we approved what we wanted to do in terms of, I think they gave a few ideas in terms of shrubbery and flowers and whatnot, and we approved that. So my question to you is Mr. Garvin looking to take it on? Is he offended? I mean, it doesn't look like this is a traffic matter. This is not saying, there's no arrows, there's no direction of traffic pushing. It's if you read the signs, it's dedicated to Bentley, it's 1950 years. I mean, is this something, if we approve, will it come back to haunt us? It seems to be pretty innocent in terms of, I guess to follow up on that, the next question would be, is this something Bentley, is there a time machine, is there a time sensitivity on this? Does Bentley want this done? Are they trying to get this sign up?
I think their goal was to try and have it up before graduation. but I don't know when, I don't know how long it takes. Yeah, I don't know if that's even possible, yeah.
So I can't answer your questions. He certainly wasn't offended, and, again, I think probably from his perspective, shrubbery is different than signage. And again, as you say, there's no directionals, there's, but he asked for me to just raise the issue, so I'm raising the issue.
Does anyone know the size of the signs?
Yeah, I think they're on that.
48 inches wide, 24 inches high.
4 feet wide by 2 feet. Does anyone know the date of Bentley's graduation?
Again, that was just I could be completely wrong
Sure.
with that. My guess is that
Late
they're.
June?
No, I think that's probably in a couple of weeks.
After Mother's Day.
That's pretty much the scale right there. So it's very.
So,
The 18th, May 18th.
May 18th?
Yeah, I mean, it's unlikely that,
There is to get in and out.
I don't know what kind of,
These doors are built with a lot of apparatus.
What's the wish of the committee?
The old 3 doors, which would be.
I'd like to kind of
spare
push this forward.
spare
There's
parts, spare-
4 pretty comparative sign options. I don't think this is something we need to
That's what they're
put too much into.
The,
And then I think if
four
Council
operating doors.
Danzig saying if we can
It's a huge,
forward to Michael Garvin for a final approval or something, I don't think it needs to go through the full traffic commission.
Okay. Make a motion for approval?
Well, there are 4 signs, they would have to pick one, and I'll make a motion for approval of sign number 4, and if that's
Can I see
okay,
it?
good, yeah.
correct. Right now, we run latitude, squad 5, engine 1, and C2 out of 3 days, which as you can see, moving those 4 vehicles to those 3 small.
Does everybody see that one?
Have it.
It's very tight. Now,
Sign 4.
new layout, we can actually bring vehicles.
All those in favor of approving sign number 4?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
That's why we.
The ayes have it. Sign number 4, and this is going to go to the traffic commission?
No.
It's gonna go to the full council.
Full council?
Approval will go to the mayor.
All right, out to the full council, we're gonna put stipulation on it that it's going to go to the mayor or to traffic?
No, the
Goes
order
to
is
the full
automatically.
council.
Okay.
Goes to the full council. I would like to make a request that we, through the clerk, send the, committee's decision off to Michael Garvin as a matter of information, right? So that if he does have any issue with it, he'll need to do whatever he needs to do between now and the time council approves it to express his concern.
Should we request that he sends an email?
Yeah, and I'll make, I'll write that. Yep.
Wonderful. On the request, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. That request has been approved.
That's it for new matters, Mr. Chairman.
All right, wonderful. Now we have the composting resolution, brought in by Councilor Mackin and myself. And we give a copy of the resolution?
I don't have with.
I don't know if I have it. Councilor Mackin probably has it
I will.
electronically.
Yes. Would you like to see it?
Just read it. Whereas composting is an environmentally friendly alternative to including food waste and other composting materials, including compostable packaging in general trash, restraining decreasing.
Councilor Mackin.
Present.
Packaging, the potential to reduce that activity, reduce costs associated with garbage and disposals, and further the goals of the city environmental programs. Therefore, be it resolved, the city council explore the options for residential composting. Councilor Mackin, do you want to speak on that?
Yes. So, I got my first report of rat activity in Ward 7 today. Haha, so now this is even more pressing, I think, for us to do something about those. I think, on the request that we made a week ago, we have somebody in to talk about composting, so I'd like to make a motion to hear from off-committee members.
Question is,
You have a sense of the request? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Yes, have it.
Thank you. So did you have anything prepared, or do you want me to just?
Oh, no, just go ahead,
off with
fire
the
away.
questions? Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. So
kitchen,
I've been doing some research on my own, but I'm interested in getting a high-level overview from your perspective. What
that table,
a municipal composting program would look like in terms of the bins that we would provide, how frequently it would get picked up, what kind of trash volume reduction we should expect.
All right, so generally, generally towns get grants from the DEP to get the bins. They are 13-gallon green Orbis bins. If it's citywide, I don't know if the town would get a grant to help with that, but normally these towns do like a 300 to 500 person pilot program. The bins are funded. I don't know if anything in addition to the bins would be granted.
three offices, every shift.
Bins otherwise cost about $19, $20 a bin. That's went by buying like 1,000 of them at a time. That's what we get now.
Okay.
But we use the same bins that the DEP uses. Picked up once a week. Generally, the average household does over 500 pounds a year of food waste. About 10.5 pounds a week. And so the savings to a town of doing that, it's about a quarter of a ton. So whatever your tipping fee is, let's say $100, it would save the town $25 per resident.
Yeah, okay.
That's just the tipping fee that's coming up, and that's the resident paying us. If the town pays us for the trucking part, because it's more than $25, it would be more expensive than trash. Because when we do citywide in Manchester, Cambridge does citywide, generally it's, and Hamilton, Wenham, generally it's around 25% of the households are putting stuff out every week, which means we are going to about a quarter of the houses as the trash trucks are, which means they have 3 to 4 times as much density. So trucking wise, it's hard to compete with that density. The tipping fee is the price that we pay to unload the truck, and that's like maybe a quarter of our cost. So that's just a part of the cost. The tipping fee is cheaper to bring it to our compost site than it is to dump it at our landfill and incinerator. So there's those two costs, the trucking and the tipping fee. Tipping fee is cheaper, trucking is more
Will
expensive.
be used as needed.
And overall, it's more expensive, which is why, unless, I mean, to really get cheaper than trash would be mandatory composting and getting it on the same footing as trash with density, and that's like a big step forward. So, like pay as you throw, and there's some other things you can do to like work your way closer to that. But, pay as you throw is like a more accurate measurement of what people are doing. But, does Waltham do that, or is it?
Not at this time. And we don't, through the chair to the Public Works Director, do we have, so my understanding is from looking at our trash contracts that we have a flat rate fee, so it's not broken out tipping versus trucking right now. Is that correct?
No, it's, so we have a separate contract
Okay.
with our disposal,
Okay,
so which would be the tipping fee, which
got it.
is $60 a ton.
Okay. And when is that up to be renegotiated?
I'll say, I don't know, if it's a 5-year contract, it's like 3, if it's a 10-year contract, it's 8.
Okay. Okay.
Somewhere around there, like 2 and 7.
And do you know if the city's ever considered a pay-as-you-throw previously?
So I would say that going from you can throw anything out you want and as much as you want to
Yeah.
pay as you throw is
A hard
a
sell?
big step.
Yeah.
So I don't think, I think limits would be more
Okay.
up our alley.
Baby steps.
Yeah, so, you know, if we had trash limits, if you went to, bin, you know, like we have the recycle toters, if we had trash toters and that's what you get, and then you do something with bulk items on the side, or, you know, you get one a week, or you have to, something like that. I think that's more in line with what would be our next step. Because you know, without that, I don't see,
Pretty much.
I see some people doing the composting.
Yeah.
People that want to, people that are just doing it for the environment, or because they think it's a better option. I think it's gonna be a hard sell for people to do it without any, you know, what's their incentive to do it? It's been my concern, you know.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so with that, I have a couple more questions for you then.
Yeah.
So talking to some people I know in Cambridge, there's pros and cons obviously, and one of the cons that they've mentioned to me is that they think it's kind of gross to have compost in their kitchen, just sort of sitting. So I guess, what are some strategies that you recommend for people who don't like the yuck factor of
Yeah.
having the banana
There's,
peel on their
there's a whole
counter?
spectrum of, there's people that are really on top of it and they like put stuff, they store it in their freezer.
Yeah,
And they put it out there the day of, even in summer, it's like ice. And so there is no flies there.
Mhm.
You use like compostable bags and stuff, and so it keeps everything really clean. And then on the other end, people that don't use any bags, and they don't clean stuff out every week, it gets nasty over time. And so the yuck factor for that is, I would say, can get high June to August.
okay,
But 9 months out of the year, it's fine. 6 months out of the year, nobody has any problem when it's cold,
okay,
except, you know, people without bags, the bins can freeze solid and you can't empty it out.
okay,
So compostable bags are really like a big help, or double bag paper grocery bags. That just keeps things clean and everything empties out easy. There's also tips like not keeping the bin out in the sun, because that gets hot and then that can attract flies. So like, you know, garages or like in the shade or something is nice. But, I mean, it's really not, we do it in our house, it's not gross. I mean, if you like put in some kind of effort, but,
yeah.
There were no grants that we found.
Yeah, I have my own compost pile in my yard. I keep it in my house and haven't had a problem with it. I think I fall under the more enthusiastic spectrum of people who I empty it pretty religiously.
some people like put fish in newspaper and roll it up like a burrito,
Oh.
and then they put that in the bin. So just like,
That's kind of clever, actually.
fish is like the worst.
Yeah.
So like you have to be big enough to stuff on
Yeah.
that. Yeah, there's like clever ways. I mean, like the drier it is, the less of a problem.
Mm.
So the committee early on, through
Okay,
lots of discussions on the
Sorry.
knowing that.
How tall the bins?
Financial phase of projects.
How much is to be?
How tall are the bins?
I would say a little more than knee high,
Okay,
depending on how tall you are.
okay. And was that second question the tipping fee?
Yeah.
I think you said earlier it's $60 a ton right now?
No, that's the
Oh, so the
trash.
trash, okay.
Believe it could.
So it's our own site. We factor ourselves $25 a ton,
Oh, okay,
but it's not normal. I think most compost sites charge like 40 to 50 a ton.
okay. So I just have a few more questions. Rats are a concern in Waltham, and my hope is that by pulling household kitchen trash out of regular trash bins and separating it into these compostable buckets, we would hopefully decrease rat activity. Does that seem realistic to you, or is that just a pipe dream?
Well, I don't know what the trash bins are like. Ours are like pretty rat proof with like a snap lock on it, so, I think it does make an impact on backyard composting, because we can take, you know, meats, bones, pizza boxes, all kinds of stuff that you can't put in your backyard pile. Plus, maybe people are putting stuff in their backyard pile that they really want to compost, but it's also gonna attract rats.
Yeah.
So, I think that's where it has more impact, because it's hard to have a rat-proof compost. Unless you have like one of the elevated ones that are on like,
Oh, the big rolling ones.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then, I did have a conversation with Cambridge's Director of Public Works. There are two questions I have for you related to that, and one is about the availability of composting sites in the state. He told me that the Department of Environmental Protection puts a cap on how much compost you can deliver to a site in a week.
Yeah, but it's like a really high cap.
Oh, okay,
It's
So
like
we're-
130 tons a week,
okay,
which, I mean, yeah, we're not close to approaching that.
oh, okay,
We're also looking at getting up to 4 sites started in the next year too.
okay. Does opening a new site in our area decrease the trucking fees at all, cause it has to travel a lower distance, or, okay?
It's, honestly though, it's tough to compete on raw land with other purposes.
Sure.
So operating a town site is like generally attractive because it's already used for that purpose. And we can add more value for that because, like for instance, it costs Manchester between $50,000 and $100,000 a year to operate their leaf and yard waste site. But then we came in, we're doing it for free, we're producing better compost, so they're saving that money. And we are saving money too because we don't have to pay for land. And so there's synergies in there where if we are operating a current site, we can save the town money.
Okay,
Or if they have land that they, I don't know, can't spend the time or something.
okay. Thank you. That is all of my questions, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Councilor Lund.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the Director of Public Works, do we have a handle on how many of our food-related businesses in the community might be composting?
Pretty sure Chateau does.
Chateau does.
And they've done it for a really long time, and I believe that the 2 colleges have to.
We pick up from Brando's, and I think we're gonna start that maybe in like a month or 2.
So that was part of when they came out, and this is just, where they made like malls and food courts and stuff, all that to
Yeah.
separate that. And school, colleges fell for the same thing. Other than that, I don't know. I'd always heard the Chateau's done it for years and years and years, and they cut their costs.
I mean, I'm curious, maybe we could obtain that information from the downtown partnership. We have a lot of restaurants in the city, right? We're blessed in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
But I think that there's an opportunity there. Now, they all make their own arrangements for trash pickup. He's accusing himself. He's not taking any notes. So you indicated that the universities have to,
Yeah,
is
if
that
it's
by
over one-
ordinance?
If it's over 1 ton per week of food waste that they are expected to be producing, and those universities are way over 1 ton. There's a lot of places that are around 1 ton that aren't doing it.
Is that a state law?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And they're working on bringing it to 0.5 ton.
Oh, all right, so we don't have, I don't believe we have a local ordinance in the city that requires any of our food services operations to
I
comment.
can touch base on that. The Chateau, when we did the fog ordinance, Jerry Sarah from the Chateau was on the committee, and they have a large restaurant in Andover, which was over the limit, 1,000 tons.
1 ton per week.
1 ton per week. So they ended up doing it there, and what they realized was the cost savings when they turn on the big giant garbage disposal, and they turn the hot water on so that it flushes it all through, and it's not even tied into the grease traps. The cost between the electricity and the hot water and the water itself, and then all their drains would get plugged. It was cheaper for them to compost in a dumpster and scrape it and have it. He said they use it for hog food. Feed hogs.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking there might be some benefit, right, to to all of the restaurants, even the smaller ones, sort of getting together and getting some sort of a shared contract.
So we
Okay, all
are,
right, that's it for me, thank you.
60 with potentially 2, 3 more points.
I have another question.
Councilor Mack, it's at 10.
Thank you. The requirement of 1 ton a week, does that apply to public school districts?
I think it does.
I didn't think it did.
Okay.
I thought it left
Okay.
them out, but
I'm
I'm
not sure.
Okay.
I thought I heard it did, but I think it was less clear on what constitutes a school that would be producing that much.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, one thing that you started to touch on, that we can get to was if there was municipal land available, what if you provide the community some information on what that looks like, if there was, what a composting building looks like, or any of that?
Yeah, so we are like working with the DEP on a grant right now that has, like concrete walls with like a big white tent structure. You know, it's called a clear span, but, it might be like 100 feet wide and 200 feet long or something. And then aeration trenches with, so we can be blowing or sucking air in and out of the pile, which just gives more processing control, so you don't have odor problems. And odor occurs when you're turning piles, so having the control of that in areas where there's people closer by is really useful. But yeah, there is like a lack of where to bring the stuff. It's really like, you know, one site we used to use in Northborough just closed in January. Another site in Hamilton is like on pause. So the more further you have to bring this stuff, the more expensive it's gonna be. The anaerobic digesters are really expensive to go to. So having a place locally definitely saves money. I mean, for, yeah, less trucking.
Anything else from the committee?
One question, I believe you are one of 3 vendors that services the city of Waltham, or that we provide information on. How many households do you service in Waltham?
I think we're at like 30 or 40. It's not that much. Belmont, we have like 500, Arlington, 800, Lexington, 700. We're like surrounding Newton, we have a few hundred. But for some reason, it hasn't really like caught on yet in Waltham. We don't even do any marketing in these towns. It's just, people just spread the word. And we try to get a few hundred people going, and then we lower the price by like 40%. And so, let's say we have 100 now, and there's 200 or 300 people on a wait list to say, I want to do it as soon as it is only $69 for 6 months or something. Then once we have like 300 or 400 people, then we lower the price for everybody. And so people like have a goal to try to get more and more people at least signed up for the wait list.
So do you have a contract with any of these communities to be the sole provider, or are you competing with other?
Well, in Manchester we are, because we're the citywide
Okay.
pickup, but in other towns too, like let's say Beverly, we have 1,000 or 1,100 people there. We don't have a contract with the town, but we're the only one. And our motivation is to keep prices as low as we can, to get as many people doing this as we can. But if there was 3 companies doing this, it would take us, instead of 3 days to cover 1,100 people, it'd probably take like 6 or 9. Because the density is not there. So that's like kind of the problem, is if there's too many companies, everybody's crossing paths, and it's not good trucking economics. So I think like one person or one company that gets out and leaves and start snowballing from there. That's how it's worked well for us in like Belmont, Arlington, and Lexington. There was a company in Newton doing it, but it was like $8 a week, and so people weren't really jumping into that. But then we started it in like January, and just got like 200 people in it. Just because everybody was talking about it. But
Thank you.
Councilor Campbell.
Thank you. Now, you keep mentioning a place to locally dump. Do you have a spot, are you looking often, do you have a location in mind that if
Well, I don't, the only spot in Waltham I can think of is like where there's the buildings that aren't really active anymore. What is that park called?
the framework?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's just kind
Get
of.
in line.
What's that? That's the, I mean, I've been all over the satellite, and that's the only spot big enough there.
What is the wish of the committee if there's no further input?
I would like to make a request that the purchasing agent inform the council of the anticipated timeline for renegotiating our trash contracts, so that we can make an informed decision if we want to look at a pilot program now with the intent of bringing it to large scale if it works out, or if the trash contracts are so far out that we maybe need to consider other options. So the request is simply that the purchasing agent let the committee know what the timeline is for renegotiating trash contracts.
You've heard the request, or on the request?
Is the purchasing agent the person who's likely to have that? Okay,
Yeah,
as opposed to
yeah.
you?
No, that's
Okay, okay.
I have it too, but
All right.
they,
Send it to
We can send it to both.
no, purchasing's fine.
All in the sense
Yeah.
of the request? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You guys have it, approve the request. Councilor Mackin, with that matter,
Did you wave your hand?
I would also just mention too, the compostable cups and stuff. Like if you wanna be, there's a lot of single-use plastic bans that are like starting to happen, and compostables are a great alternative to that. And we like composting that. There's periodically misconceptions that some composters don't like it because it takes a little extra work. But because we are the trucking company and we know we want to be picking this stuff up because that's the way things are heading, we want to put in that extra work to make sure we can compost those compostables. So some composters don't like it because it takes an extra couple turnings to make sure everything gets into the middle of the pile that burns up. Let's say a fork makes it through to the end and you have a fork in your compost that doesn't look as good as a stick, even though they both take the same amount of time to break down. But the other thing is, if you anaerobic digest that stuff, it doesn't liquefy, and so it doesn't actually go anywhere but the trash, because it goes through the grinding machine, whatever doesn't liquefy gets trashed. So that's a big difference between composting and digestion.
It's all one lot. So all the lot lines are different. So go ahead.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Okay.
Councilor Mackin makes a request to lay that matter back on the table.
Oh,
All in
thank you very
favor?
much.
Aye.
Nothing else.
All opposed? You guys have it. Thank you very much.
Really appreciate your time.
Yep. See you. Thanks for coming and all the
Thank
input.
you very much.
Before we take the next matter.
Oh, okay, what do we got?
We have the 1725 paving resolution. You wanna wait, you wanna go first? All right, next up on the agenda is the 1725 paving resolution. We had brought in a paving resolution by myself to,
Make a motion to take that matter off the table.
Councilor McConnell likes to make a motion to take that off the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
You guys have it? All opposed? I brought in a resolution on this, and we did get a law opinion back. Does all committee members have a copy of the law opinion on that? And Councilor Cobb, you have the floor. Just basically more for information, because I'm on the chair. We have a copy of the law opinion, and it was based on putting the 1725 paving, but sticking with the standard, but putting it back in the hands of the Director of Public Works. So if someone would like to make a motion, he has many off-committee members. Councilor Cobb makes a motion, he has many off-committee members, and Director of Public Works, Jason.
So I think the water department, they've written a change, an ordinance change also. And I apologize, I came from coaching the baseball game and didn't have, I left my stuff in the office, so I didn't have time to go. So I believe there was, and the only,
Yes.
so the concerns I had was that it didn't have some of the, not teeth, but some of the items we had discussed in it about, I think, you know, if it was going from 4 lanes to, or giving some discretion to, Public Works on simple matter, you know, not, I think it was that point, and there was one other, that concerned me that it wasn't in there, and that we, when we had our discussion on it, that those are the things we had talked about. Doesn't mention 2 lanes versus 4 lanes, flowable fill, infrared, you know, that, which is something that council has been doing, you know, in the past couple of years. It also didn't seem to give me the power to approve the 1725, which would be necessary. So those are the things that I didn't see in it, and well, other than that, you know, I had said, and you know, when I get them, it's going to be to approve them, to look at them, approve them. You know, I know we just did, we have someone that oversees the final paving of them. He tries to check them before to see where their limits are. He checks them after. They just did one on South Street. They fixed that one down the end before the city line. You know, he went out before, we went out after, so we're trying to do a better job that way. And so I think originally the workload I don't think is going to be anything drastic. There aren't a number of them. I think one of the only concerns I had was, this is kind of something new that has popped up with the plastic bags, and that, eliminating them and that possibly being under Public Works. And I did respond with that I didn't think that was the right place, but I don't know how that will, you know, the only people that would do that would be the inspectors that also oversee this sort of stuff, which they do now, but I just think it would be, I don't know how that would work within the department yet, something that would be new. It might just be one more thing that I don't know that we can handle with this changeover of water and sewer also.
Can you clarify that a little bit more on what you had concerns with on this?
So I
2
know
lanes
in the,
versus 4 lanes.
so in the, we had discussed that, like on a main street,
Yes.
where sections of it are 4 lanes,
There's no need to-
that there's no need, there may not be a need to go all the way across. If it's only on one side and we can just go to the center line. If it's in the middle of the road, we'd go, you know, the complete width, but it doesn't always need to be that way. You know, Lexington Street would be another street that would be similar, and only because the traffic that it would be a big issue for traffic, and it would help us. And I don't think it would be necessary to disturb 2 lanes of asphalt that we haven't touched. If we're doing, right, if we're doing the other
It's worse.
stuff.
And on the flowable fill, what would you like to?
So I know the council had always, in recent history, asked that flowable fill will be used. I just think if that's in there, it's easier for me to, I can then say, hey, you gotta do it, it's a city council thing, it's not just a Public Works, Mike Chasen thing.
And you wrote et cetera. What did you mean?
I think that was it, I was.
Flowable fill,
it was a-
okay.
Yeah, I didn't know, infrared, infrared was the other one that we had been doing, and
And Councilor,
Yeah, and thank you. And again, the big thing was, I mean, it was a while ago that came in, but I read it and I'm remembering. The idea of this is to move the authority from the council to the director of public works, right? But it
Didn't
doesn't
seem-
do that,
it didn't seem like it said that.
right? So,
Correct.
so the ordinance isn't ready for prime time, right? It's gotta be accurate, or it'll die on the council floor when all of the ward councilors, you know, who just have some legitimate concerns about their
Yeah.
neighborhoods. The idea is to get the same end result, if not
Right.
better end result that we would get going through the council process. The idea is to make it less burdensome
Correct.
for people, but this doesn't provide the protections. that
That's
we
not,
need.
what- yeah, the way I read it, it didn't allow me to make the approval, and, you know, I think the et cetera was, if there's anything else you, council is thinking that they want in there, it needs to be placed in there, there was nothing.
So, it's related to this, right, because, I'm good with this if we're also doing some other things in the city, right? You know, going way back, we talked about notification to, residents who lived on the street, right? If the city was gonna be doing any work on its own, and giving them as much lead time as possible. So if they wanted to, make utility improvements, they would sort of have a timeline. Or how much lead time are we giving residents when we're going to be repaving their street?
So as soon as I get money approved, that's when we will send out letters for total repayment. So sometimes it's 4 years of lead time, which is an issue because you have changes, but, you know, so we send those out, we try and send those out, you know, after we get the money, and,
What's the shortest window somebody would have? I mean, is there always enough time when we do a notification, the person got that and said, okay, you know what? Now's the time to switch to gas.
most times there's enough time. Just because of putting contracts together, you get 3 or 4 months. I don't know what's, you know, I don't know if that's enough time, depending on where you are, and if you just bought the house, it may not be what you're thinking of doing, but you were thinking of doing it in 2 years and you don't have the money to do it, so it's, you know, so we get it out as soon as we can, but I'm not comfortable getting it out, like, hey, we're thinking of paving your street.
And
But as
that's
soon as we
something
get money,
we, you
yeah.
know, years back, we weren't even sending a
Right,
letter, right?
as soon as
And
we
through the council process,
have the
we
money
started
approved,
this.
and that's what we, you know, in the letter, it's,
Yeah.
money has been appropriated to pave the street,
Quarter of
it'll
the
be
cost of doing
done.
the 1780, that's 1725.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Okay.
Yeah, the gas is the big thing.
Yeah, of course, yeah. All right, thank you.
Councilor Mackey? Oh, I thought you were raising your hand, I'm sorry.
So how are we gonna get,
So,
how are we gonna get the
yes.
needed language into this?
If council would like to make a request, that we send something back to the water department?
Make that request.
Okay. Send a request to the water department and what is it?
To ask them to,
Just write down what you want her to.
and, so my request would be, to Attorney Azadi that, after a discussion with the Public Works Director regarding her opinion on this matter, issues were raised regarding, the authority of the Public Works Director to approve 1725, and also a request to include in the ordinance the 2-lane versus 4-lane issues, flowable fill and infrared, and making those a requirement. Okay.
You all heard the sense of the request. On the request, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. You have approved and opposed.
Can I get a
Put that
second
in.
one too?
Sure. And council would like you to have the floor. You want to-
I do. I would like to take the matter dated October 22nd, 2018, resolution protecting youth from the dangers of using tobacco
Wait, Mike, don't leave.
from the
Sorry.
table.
Councilor has made a motion, she will take it from the table, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
I would like to make a request to call in the director of the health department and the members of the Board of Health to the next committee meeting to discuss tobacco regulations in the city of Oakland.
You all heard the request? On the request, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
I want to lay that matter back on the table.
All right.
Aye.
Councilor Mackin.
I'd like to take the matter of the flag circle paving off the table.
Councilor Mackin, what is the date of that? Do you happen to-
Oh, boy. A while ago.
3/10/17.
Thank you. Yes.
Councilor Mackin, would like to take that matter off the table. All those in favor? All those opposed? Councilor Mackin.
Thank you. Through you to the chair of the CPW. I think we sent you a request, but I don't know that it's been returned yet.
Yes, you did,
Okay.
and I owe you that request.
Would it help if I emailed you again so you have everything in writing?
No, if you can just email me that says, do the flag circle thing, I have all the other info.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right. I move to lay the matter back on the table.
Councilor Mackin, lay the matter back on the table. All in favor? Councilor Carver would like to take the Harrington Road resolution off the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Councilor LaCava moves to file that matter since they are paving. All those in favor? There's only one.
13, 2017.
All those in favor of filing that?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. We have filed that. What is the wish of the committee? Councilor Carver, make a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. We're adjourned at 6:49.